Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight. I got Mrs. Steve with us tonight. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. And we'll have a presentation. And during that presentation, if you have any questions, throw them in chat. And while you're in chat, absolutely make sure that you're respectful of families, mods, and each other. If you have any questions, throw them in there, and I'll try to get to as many questions as we can. I've been out on the road for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, or prepping in on the road, and just got back home a few days ago, and have been working some cold cases and things on the other side of what we do, apart from our YouTube channel. But took a break from those cases, and I was scrolling around through some other channels, and I came across this Karen Reed case. And there was an image of some injuries to her arm that, and they were discussing, and they're, upon a little research, it has struck my interest of the huge controversy of innocent or guilt. And as we do this verdict watch and what is going on with this case, I know very little about the case. Like I said, I've been extremely busy, but from what little research I've done and looking at it, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do some recreation and possibly identify certain types of injuries and try to understand what the prosecutors are presenting to the case as far as it being a homicide with a vehicle strike versus what the defense is saying of the corruption and the cover-up and a dog attack. And of course, Mrs. Steve and I have over supper tonight. I took her out and then showed her some pictures, and we start discussing, as we normally do, our crime scenes. And so she has worked, has most of her career been involved with vehicle accidents and animal attacks. She's seen just about anything and everything in her world regarding these. And so I got her opinion on it. And of course, she is strongly along a certain line. And I'm kind of mixed because I'm trying to decide, can more than one thing occur to one individual in one single night? And we'll discuss more of that as we get into it during the presentation, for the fact that I know that what has been presented to the court and what has brought the jury to what appears to be a hung jury at this time, that they've been instructed to go back, and we'll find out in the coming days, will they maintain their status and it become a hung jury, and therefore a mistrial be declared. Don't know, but it's extremely interesting.
Mountain Mama. That's priceless.
Oh man, y'all crack me up, guys. But anyway, let's get into the presentation here. But this is the image that, as I was scrolling through and I was watching some channels, and I think it was True Crime with Dago, that I was in his chat a day or two ago, and we were discussing this, and they were trying to, of course, there was debate: is it a vehicle strike versus K9? And Mrs. Steve, what did you say?
K9.
Okay. And if I told you that upon research that in his clothing he had microscopic debris from a tail light. Would that change your opinion that this is K9?
No,
Okay. There we go.
that's the two things that happened to the same person in the same night.
Okay. And is that possible? And that's something that we're going to be discussing tonight. And I'm sure each of y'all have strong opinions about which way this is and what is this, and that even in the medical fields, of course, you have experts that have looked at this, and through the trial, and I've looked up some quotes of where the medical say the experts that have testified in this trial that they don't really truly understand that these are non-typical accident injuries that you normally would not see in a vehicle strike. And I would agree. This isn't something that you would normally see in a vehicle strike. And I don't believe that they're from a vehicle strike. I also believe that they're from a K9. But with that, how does we cover everything? And that's where we'll get into it with what the Commonwealth has brought to the table and their charges that on the that in June 22 that they did charge Karen Reed did assault and beat John O'Keefe with intent to commit a homicide. Such person and by such assault and battery did commit the homicide of said John O'Keefe and is guilty of homicide in the second degree. And of course the violations. And of course we have Karen Reed and John O'Keefe's images. And then there's other charges about operating a vehicle in which the public has a right of access and the injuries occurred, and then other charges that would have occurred. Then, of course, we have the other things of when they talk about the case. And if you read the Commonwealth statement of this case, it appears, it's quite detailed, it's quite lengthy. And within those descriptors, if you went just by that, then without a doubt, you're looking at from the prosecution side that they have all the evidence, they have a narrative, and it's a strong narrative that when you look at it, what does it mean? And who are they pointing the finger at? Clearly, it's Karen Reed. Does that mean that she is the responsible party? And do I think that she may have struck him during that night? Yes, I do. But I also think that there may have been a second encounter. And just bear with me. And I don't know, this may have been brought up in trial. I don't know, or it may have been discussed on other channels. I have no idea of it. But sometimes, and I've answered a lot of calls in my career of where an individual has been in multiple encounters, and that often you would go to an establishment where there may have been a domestic or a fight, or you may stop a vehicle due to whatever situation and discover some type of domestic issue, and then have to respond with the same parties but at different residences because they went and created a secondary incident. And to answer all the injuries and all the principles of the exchange of Locard's principle, I do think that this may have been more than one encounter. And because here where we see that the defense brings up that they want access to the autopsy samples so they can test and determine if he was attacked by a dog. They also want a DNA sample from the dog, who they claim has since been rehomed out of state. A lot of weird stuff going on about why would you rehome a dog? And we have to look at that. And there's no time to waste, and it's time for excuses to end as we see what the defense is bringing to the table. And then, of course, we have where the judge ruled that Marie Russell could testify about her opinion that O'Keefe's injuries to his arms were consistent with a dog attack after the prosecution sought to exclude her. And you will have experts that do this. You'll always have that, no matter what type of injuries, gunshot, knife wounds, and whatever scientific evidence is brought to the table, you'll often see that there's experts that are brought in to counter that. And you rely upon the personal experiences of the jury and what will they do with those opposing experts. And in this case, we have that even the state's experts, they don't know, like I said, they said they were non-typical injuries of what an accident for a vehicle. And I want y'all to envision that if you're standing behind a vehicle or in front of a vehicle and you're about to get struck by a vehicle and you react, I mean, it's, you'll react regardless, as soon as you recognize that there's a threat, you'll either put your arms out, your hands out, or you'll raise your arm. And when we look at these injuries on his arms, let's see, how can I do it? They're all along here. I've got injuries on my arms now, but not from this. But
that's from moving.
That's from moving. I cut myself up all the time. But they're on the outside. And so if you raised your arm to try to ward off whatever is about to hit you, be it a person striking at you or a vehicle about to strike you, you're going to have your arm raised up. You're not going to have now if you had where the cuts and the abrasions are in this area, that's a little bit different than along the back and the outside exposed areas of the back of the hand and up the forearm and the shoulders. And some of these injuries were described as puncture wounds also. And how can that be? And that's what drives us to what may or may not have occurred. But when you look at the DA's accounting of it, and points to the physical evidence in the case, including broken pieces of taillight recovered from the outside of the residence where he was located, and the microscopic pieces of red and clear plastic found on his clothing. And I even brought this up in discussion and chat on one of the shows, that did Locard's exchange principle occur? And when you look at Locard's exchange principle, this is simply that every contact leaves a trace. That when two objects come into contact, there's an exchange of materials between them. It doesn't matter if it's a person, place, or thing. It results in an exchange of physical materials. That the tail light would get fiber, hair, skin, blood with it on the vehicle, and then the individual, being Keith, would get some type of materials from the tail light, be it microscopic plastics, clear and red, which appears to be the case that the DA is talking to. And then we have, whereas there's a large gathering of persons and opinions that law enforcement has tampered with evidence and possibly contaminated. And is that the case? I don't know. I know it's out there, and it's and we see some of the behavior by some of the investigators through their communications and some of their discussions of other professionals and the manner they speak of those professionals, and they're not very nice to each other.
No, they're not.
No, they insult each other. And but just because you send angry voicemails and text messages doesn't mean. And are those indicators of that you didn't know that, or you saw, or you didn't understand that you may have harmed someone? And I would say that that's possible also. But anyway, when we weigh all the evidence, and what I'm going to be trying to test in the coming days is get some of the specific measurements about the vehicle. The tail lights are far too expensive for me to purchase. I was in a chat, and I think someone said that those tail lights run about $1,000 a piece. And so therefore,
No recreation for you.
No, but there's other alternatives and there's other ways that I might be able to recreate some of this. And I'm going to be looking at it and see if I can't get my mannequin struck by a vehicle or something.
And I'm not the mannequin.
You're not the mannequin. Nope.
Okay. Just checking.
But anyway, like I said, there's a large controversy about this case, and my working theory is currently, did they have a argument? Absolutely. There's no doubt that there wasn't a heated exchange of text messages from her to him, wishing him the worst. There's evidence that her vehicle was accelerated in reverse. There's damage to the back of her vehicle. And if we take the DA's at his word about the evidence that was presented about Locard's exchange principle, that on his clothing there is microscopic evidence of contact. So did she strike him? It appears that if all those are correct, yes. But now what happened after that strike? Is that what put him immediately into the situation of where he would have been injured beyond being able to recover and going somewhere else, and possibly a subsequent encounter, which included dog bites, canine attack, and possibly even a physical encounter with others. But you know, it appears that there may be more than one answer. We don't always have to say that either he was attacked and that was his only encounter. We don't have to say that he was struck and that's his only encounter. There could be combinations of the two. And that's what we're going to have to determine. The jury already has it, and they're split on their opinions. And would you be if you was on this jury, would you convict her for the death of him?
No,
Okay.
Not with what I have here.
Okay. All right. Okay. Just checking.
I'll stop at that.
You're going to stop at that?
I mean, the dog bite cases that I have handled in my past, they look like that. Now, you know, not all dogs are the same. I mean, there may be a missing tooth here and there. I've also had that, but that from this description and this photo, it looks like a dog bite.
Okay. And I've been bitten by just about every animal you can imagine. Even our own donkey one time got me.
Yep. Got him in the back.
Got me in the back. And so I've been bit by just about, cats, dogs, shark, spiders, donkeys, horses. I don't think I got bit by a cow.
What about the goat?
I don't know if I got bit by the goat.
Sniper didn't get you?
Sniper could have gotten me, but it's been playful.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I had a goat named Sniper. And
Magnum.
And Magnum.
And Bullet.
And Bullet. We've had 3 goats. All of them named after different
obviously
around the firearm industry. But anyway, do we have any questions?
Yes, you do. You have some starred, and then you may go back through and see if there's any other ones that you would like to entertain.
Let me go through the stars first here.
Go to the top of your thing. There you go. Go all the way. Those are hard. It's hard to do. It doesn't like that part. He's got to go up a little bit more.
Oh, there we go.
No, don't go. Use your little up button thingy.
Okay. Nope.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to do that. So you get to do.
So I have to do that. All right. So the first one is Lee and Susan Trainer, member for 18 months.
Thank you.
I get to do the blue light. Get your head out of the way.
It is. It's out of the way.
Perfect. Hello, Mr. Steve, and it's very nice to see you again, Mrs. Steve, looking beautiful as always. Now, I know that was a lie.
No.
We've been moving all day, so I know that was a lie. But thank you anyway. All right. The next one is from Molly Molly. Can a car in reverse 24 miles per hour hit a 6-foot, 200-pound man, causing only massive skull fractures, a large laceration where he lost 80% of his blood not found, and has dog bite wounds?
And that's the thing. I think that both can occur, and I think that possibly both did occur. Of where he could be struck, and that explains the broken lights, and then that whatever encounter occurred after that may involve the K9. Now, that's just a working theory that I'm looking at right now, and that's some of the things that we're going to have to do, because I've got to do some research on that vehicle, and I'm a little bit taller than he is, but even at that height, how high are those taillights? Uh, and we'll be able to do some measurements, some recreation. I'll get some specifics of the taillight heights and be able to recreate some of these heights comparisons. But I agree with you right now that it doesn't appear that this is the full story of just her striking him and resulting in his death from those injuries alone. I'm with you. It doesn't make any sense.
All right. And Molly Molly, with video ring doorbell proof of Karen hitting John's car at 5 a.m., causing a small crack in her taillight. Yet 35 pieces were found over 3 weeks. ...
Well, and I thought about that. This was brought up in one of the discussions. We don't know what other forces, you can have a cracked tail light and you can have one big lens or one piece of the lens that can fall to the ground, and it may have secondary breaks. But then you have other forces that over the next few days, weeks, of where it's stepped on, run over, plowed over, that would constantly grind it down into where there are multiple pieces. 35 pieces occurring all at once, I would probably not see that unless you have some type of high velocity strike, and we don't have that here. So I believe that some of these pieces would be from secondary forces, later dates, like I said, stepping on, because from my understanding, law enforcement did not do a spectacular job in the protection of the evidence from store bags and Dixie cups or Solo cups and snow blowers and I've heard not snow, but some type of leaf blowers and stuff of that being used, and so there's a lot of potential of cross contamination and even damaging some of the recovered evidence even more so than what would have if they had processed it properly in the beginning.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Forgot my piece of paper. I haven't done this in so long. Uh-huh. All right, so let's get rid of the star. Oh, we got a new member.
Hello.
Aquarian 1. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And on our members, we have on Sundays, we have all our members, and except when I'm on the road. But even on the road, sometimes on Sundays, I try to have some type of members around 7 o'clock. So absolutely check in with us on Sundays at 7. And then on Wednesday, for the upper tier members, we also have a members only.
All right. And Pitbull Mom, thank you so much.
$4.99. Appreciate that.
We appreciate it.
Just got back from a long trip and spent a lot of money.
Sure did.
We spent a lot of money, but it was necessary. Met some new co-case families and doing some work on those, and also was able to. We went across the country on the eDNA study, And we'll be covering some of that in the coming days.
And Molly, at True Crime Web, the 2 Massachusetts state police who will be going to prison pressured the ME to say it definitely wasn't injuries from a fist fight.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of issues in here, and where will this all wind up? Like I said, I think at the end of everything, we may have more than what's recognized, that you can have a domestic issue, and then you can also have a continued fight and dog attack.
All right. And Barbara Hall, is it defensive wound, Mr. Steve?
I actually did some training with K9s, and I put on the heavy training upper body wear that you do whenever you're training K9s. And I've been bit by a dog, even not wearing the protective suits. And but yes, typically defensive wounds can be to any part of your body. You'll usually throw your hands up, you'll throw your arms up, and that's where those injuries occur. And whatever you put in front of yourself between, especially if it's a K9, and that if you put your hand out in front of you, the K9 is going to bite the first thing he can get his mouth around. That'd be your hand. If you throw your arm out there, the first thing he can get his mouth around, he's going to bite. And is this what happened here? Was he taking some type of defensive measures and got bit on the forearm multiple times? I'll take Mrs. Steve's word for it. And I saw other experts that handle K9s that says that these are definitely dog bites. And we have a doctor that says they are. And then we have experts for the prosecution that says they don't know what they are, and they're not typical of a traffic injury. But anyway, also for those of you who do not know who Barbara Hall is, she is the mother of Timmy Dees and has been fighting for justice for a long time for him. And absolutely look up Timmy Dees' case, and you will be introduced to Barbara Hall and her fight for justice.
Okay. 24 Alley. All right, that's Miss Hall. Okay, and this here is from Miss Brenda. You're hit by a 7,000-pound SUV and no broken bones, but your eyes look like black golf. You have scuff on your right knuckle, and you pass with no other injuries, and her tail light intact at 5+ a.m.
And that's, and that's some of the debate. At what point do we have a cracked tail light that meets the Locard's exchange principle, and he has microscopic glass fragments? And while it doesn't have to be fully knocked out, how does that occur? And is it true? And so, we have the DA saying one thing, and then of course the defense going right the opposite. And that's where we have to let the jury do their thing. And we're going to see that if we look at this case right now, the jury's doing exactly what it should be doing. And our jury system and our court systems, at the end of the day, if it doesn't change, it's going to do exactly what it's designed to do. There will be a mistrial, and until the state can get its act together and law enforcement brings the evidence in a clear, concise way to change that jury's mind, I side with y'all that there's a lot of this stuff that makes no sense. And if it doesn't make sense, guys, you shouldn't be convicted of a crime, regardless. Did she strike him? And we have to have some proof that if law enforcement did plant or contaminate any of this evidence of him, and how would that microscopic plastics get in his clothing other than a vehicle strike, then there is a serious matter to be considered about, and there needs to be a lot of officers going to jail.
Okay. And Miranda at True Crime Web, don't you think even if she did hit him, she's being overcharged?
Absolutely, and that's the issue. I mean, was she intoxicated? If you go back and look at how many drinks and the timeline and what was going on, I've been to thousands of intoxicated couples in all different types of encounters. But yes, just because, now there's a lot of, um, does she have to pay the piper if she's intoxicated and offender? Absolutely. If that's established and she was drunk at the time, she's out there and they've brought that to the table that there's that type of charge, absolutely. I can see where you would have some type of lesser included offenses as the DUIs and things that can go through. But as far as the homicide and all of that, yes, I do think that she is overcharged. Good point, Miranda.
Okay. All right. And Southern Gal True Crime member for 16 months. Thank you so much. Have
Hello.
to be the replay crew.
Yes. Southern Gal True Crime. Check out her channel if y'all haven't. Excellent show.
All right. And Black Widow. Look at there.
Hello, Black Widow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Super sticker. Thank you.
All right. And Carlene. Mr. Steve, do you not know that Karen Reed backed into John O'Keefe's car in the driveway? That's how she cracked the light.
Yes, I had heard that, but backing into his car doesn't satisfy the microscopic materials of the taillight in his clothing. Can she back into his car? Absolutely. Can that be one incident? Absolutely. Could she have struck him earlier? Absolutely. And that's what I'm trying to get across is that not everything has to be one incident. But yes, I saw that. But we have to explain that if the prosecutor is standing there, and let me bring it up here, and he says that it pointed to the physical evidence in the case, including broken pieces of taillight recovered from outside of the residence and the microscopic pieces of red and clear plastic found on O'Keefe's clothing. How did that occur? And a hair matching O'Keefe's was found on the back of Reed's car. Now, of course, that hair could be from just at any time frame. But now the microscopic plastic pieces can have to occur during some type of encounter of them being transferred to his clothing. And that's the issue. Yes, I know, and I've heard about that there was contact between the vehicles, but that does not explain that of how his clothes became contaminated. And we have to explain that. Was it through corruption? Was it through being framed, or was it through a vehicle strike? And we have to consider all of that. We just can't say that, well, the tail light was only broken one time, or, and because I don't know. And I have to look at it all and try to understand it because it makes absolutely no sense. But good question.
Let's see here. All right, that was Carlene. And this is from Debbie. Me? When you get a chance, you two should watch the last two defense witnesses. They were hired by the FBI as part of their investigation and don't have a horse in this race.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. No, I haven't seen that. I've just, like I said, I just was glancing through and came across this and did some, like I said, I'm pretty busy, but I saw this case. It intrigued me, and I'm looking at it. But no, I haven't seen those. But thank you for that, and I will go back and watch those two experts.
And from Molly, the blood was in the basement of the Alberts. Basement floor jackhammered up and replaced. Brian Albert and others, can I say that word? Killed him?
Committed homicide.
Homicide. And conspired to cover it up. Feds are moving in. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had heard that also. They were talking about that the floor had been replaced, I think, twice, and
Wow.
and yeah.
So who else did they?
Well, yeah, but yes, I had seen that referenced.
Okay. All right, and from Miss Gale, did the dog
Get his shots, maybe.
get his shots? When hit by a car, do victims' shoes get knocked off? Was his shoes knocked off?
And that's another, and this is a good point. Yes, but it takes a certain amount of energy and certain parts of the body. And when the shoes get knocked off, usually you'll have where it's some, vehicle traveling a high rate of speed, and it'll knock you right out of your shoes. I've worked death investigations where shoes are found in the roadway and the victims are off down embankments. And that's what I'm, and that's part of the confusion of this, that if we did not, and I would be 100% on y'all's side, other than from this point right here, Locard's exchange principle is a standard that is in the sciences and in investigations. And we have to explain how that microscopic lenses, pieces of lens got on his clothing. And if it is through the some type of framing, then others need to go to jail. And if not, then we have to just look at it and explain what reasonable explanation, what simple explanation could it be? And can there be a car strike? Yes. Then all the other stuff, like I said, if I didn't have this one statement here, I'm 100% on the other side. I'm with you. Absolutely.
All right. And Margaret, what damage on the back of the vehicle? No damage per an uninvolved officer's observations. The only damage was done later after J.O. found. Snowplow driver suggests officers lied about dog bites.
Yeah, I saw where there was some noted that there was some small dent that was in some of the coverage and some of the articles. And I haven't seen the photos of those yet. And as we look further into the case, I'll probably look into those and see if it's something that is consistent and might. But yes, you'll have, and it does appear that that there is some type of framing at first glance going on, and like I said, there's no defense of that for law enforcement, but we have to explain this away. And if the FBI is involved, they'll do the follow up, and whatever officers, if they did play a role in that, they should face the full weight of law.
And Miss Miranda, if it's a hung jury, will the prosecution choose to recharge Karen?
They'll have that option if they want to take it back to trial. But they better have better than what they have here.
Okay, and Miss Brenda gifted 1 True Crime Web membership.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And Miss Brenda gifted 1 True Crime Web membership. Thank you. And Miss Brenda gifted 1 True Crime Web membership.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. All right, now this is a statement from Mark. Never seen a case like this make it to court. The investigating officer was destroyed on the stand by the defense. The prosecution has not proven their case.
And I agree. I absolutely do agree. And we just have to, there's loose ends that have to be clarified, because we can't allow law enforcement and our justice system to be questioned and continued to have, and like I said, some of these investigators and how they acted and measures taken isn't appropriate. And hopefully the department will make amends and make sure that investigations don't continue in this manner.
And from Mitzi, gifted 1 True Crime Web membership. Thank
you
so much.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. And from Nan, a question. I remember the testimony that said that while the tail light housing was being removed, the covering fell into a bunch of pieces at the Sally port. Could pieces get into the wrong hands?
And this is a key point. And if so, how would they have access, and would they have access, and were the clothing and the items bagged properly? And that's a huge point, that while you may be able, and it may be explained simply, that the improper security of the plastic housing and the improper securing of the articles of clothing could allow this microscopic pieces to cross-contaminate. And if that is the case, then we have issues there in the procedures used to ensure that we don't have cross-contamination. But yes, you're absolutely correct that this is a possibility, that during the processing of the evidence and the storage of the evidence, that it wasn't stored properly, secured, and isolated in such a manner that would not allow cross-contamination, either innocently or intentionally.
Okay, and this is from Cryptex. Sorry I'm late, but do you have a theory here, Steve? Thanks.
Yeah, like I said, my working theory right now is that more than to explain how he would have had microscopic contamination of his clothing, or the Locard exchange principle, is that, was he struck by that vehicle? Could he have been struck by that vehicle? Yes. But then also, could he have been attacked by a dog while he was in this intoxicated condition and possibly encountered the individuals that caused him further harm and been attacked by a dog? That's the working theory right now. And that may change as I look further into it. And because there's a lot of information out there, and we see that the jury is confused by it. And of course, there's parties on both sides. You have the parties on the family side of the O'Keefe and of that individual that are absolutely that she is responsible, solely responsible. And then we have, whereas there's people that are on the other side that says that she is not responsible, and that nothing is further from the truth, that her involvement as far as in his injuries.
Okay, and that was crypto. Okay, and now we have Colleen, member for 9 months. Proctor's text about Karen were piggish and cruel.
Yes, like I said, they were totally unprofessional, and even the officers' comments about the medical examiner were unprofessional.
Crazy. Okay. All right, and from Cincy Wackadoodle, have you seen some of the infamous Trooper Proctor testimony where he called KR the C word, the R word, and so forth?
Yeah, that's what I was just referring to about the medical examiner, and he was speaking in an unprofessional manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, and once again, that is not the way that anyone that's involved in law enforcement should act. That you go by whatever the evidence is. You don't develop a narrative and make the evidence fit the narrative. The evidence drives you down a certain path, and sometimes that path can have intersections, and it sometimes, and that's what part of this YouTube channel is here for y'all to understand. That we have to look at, everything, and even things that make us doubt that, or puts us in a different opinion, to make sure that what we're looking at, and at the end of the day, we have a clear understanding. I don't have a clear understanding right now of all the evidence, and there's a lot of evidence out there. I haven't seen the full trial. I didn't see every. I'm going by what articles I've read, and taking these articles, looking at some of the key points, and trying to understand it. And it makes no sense. And when it makes no sense at this point, I'm with the jury. It's a hung jury at a minimum right now, and there should be a mistrial. She shouldn't be found guilty of these charges.
Okay. And that is playing catch up. Okay, that was Cincy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and from Molly, rumor from a retired Fed is that the Feds have a sealed indictment and they're going to swarm after the verdict is delivered or mistrial calls home.
And that could be possible. You never know what the Feds are going to do. Been there, seen it. And like I said, if there's any corruption and misconduct by law enforcement, those officers should be held at a higher standard. And they are typically, law enforcement, held at an extreme standard, and deservingly so.
All right, Miss Colleen, John's clothing was in Proctor's car for a month and a half, not logged into evidence. Microscopic pieces could have been planted or transferred from his vehicle.
And if that is the case,
wow,
then even more so, he is going to have huge issues. I hadn't seen that piece of evidence, or that he would have had an opportunity. And that's one of the things that would explain a way of how this could occur. Improper handling, improper security, chain of evidence, all those issues are guidelines that are there for a reason, so that we don't have these questions of how could microscopic pieces this have occurred. And if it's what you say here, then absolutely she should walk, and the officers involved will have a lot of explaining to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and from Miss Brenda, thank you for the $2 donation. I hope you really go deep on this one, please.
I'm going to try to, but also, like I said, I've got some of the code cases I'm really looking into right now, and I've got to get for the next couple of weeks. Monday, I've got to contact one of the families with some findings, yes, this is a very intriguing, and if it was improper, and like I said, while I was on the road, I heard rumors here and there about, have you seen what was happening with the Karen Reed case? And of course, I couldn't do any research because we had such long days, and
most no Wi-Fi.
And no Wi-Fi a lot of the time in some of the remote areas we were in. But like I said, some of my downtime when I'm trying to decompress at night, I saw this and became intrigued.
All right. And from Miranda, how many more days can the judge force the jury to deliberate?
I think there are certain times that when the jury comes back in, that there's certain procedures and hearings and instructions to the jury. There's another level of the instructions I think that right before that they'll have to go to, and there's a name for it, and I can't think of it. But there's that before the mistrial would be that the judge can explain to try to do your best, but he can't instruct on of what costs are of the trial or what that there may or may not ever be another trial. There's certain qualifiers that he would have to instruct the jury with, but and I can't think of what the name of that is.
All right. And from Cynthia, what are your thoughts on an officer extracting forensic data off their own phone and then destroying and disposing of their phone?
Once again, law enforcement, if they did anything, and there has to be if such conduct is occurring, what is that reason for that conduct? And if it is to cover up others' misdeeds, and then of course they should be held accountable.
Okay.
There's nothing good about this case, I'm telling you.
All right, here's some interesting things from Lee and Susan. Exhibits 102 and 145, they're saying that they're the same car, but if you look at the taillights are different in a Traverse and the other is a Lexus.
I saw where that they were, the defense had brought up, I saw some limited testimony of where the image had been reversed, and they were talking about it. I hadn't seen the 102 and 145 comparison yet.
Okay. And from Molly, it's very sad because the entire town of Canton, County of Norfolk, is terrified by the Albert McCabe family. I'm actually fearful for the safety of the jurors. KR has to have private security.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, no is a good old boy system, and the powers of certain families. Does it occur across the country? Yes, we saw that in the Murdoch case in the Carolinas. And is it out there? Sure, it can be. But what role and what part it is in here, that of course no individual should be frightened to live in their community just because of a powerful entity, and that'll be corrected.
Okay.
I've never been fearful anywhere I live.
All right, until a spider comes.
Until a spider.
All right, and from Debbie, thank you so much for the $10 donation to your head. There was no blood or tissue on the taillight pieces, only his DNA. They live together, so I'd only be suspicious if his DNA wasn't there.
And that's what I explained earlier when I talked about, you could have a hair, you could have where he was unloading and may have touched, because that's one thing you can't tell about DNA is the age of it. And, not always. You may have degraded DNA and all the other stuff, but yes. And that's something else that you would expect if you went at Locard's principle, that on those edges of where the taillight's broken, is there fiber, is there hair, is there blood, and which blood and DNA, while blood may contain DNA, blood has presumptive tests, whereas you can identify that blood. And I don't know what procedure law enforcement took in the processing, but they should have, and most certainly um, have checked if there was any blood on the back of that vehicle.
Alrighty. Kowalski. I
Okay.
hope I didn't butcher that too bad. How angry does it make you that the investigation was so sloppily handled? Do you think it makes all police look bad?
Absolutely. I mean, who wants such a boggled investigation? Because now other CSI teams, no one wants to look the fool. And in this day and age, and we have such a high standard and expectation of law enforcement, we have these CSI programs, and is it unfairly placed upon law enforcement that they have to act up to what the rehearsed standards that we see nightly on our CSI programs? Yes, it probably is an unfair standard because humans make mistakes, but we're also highly trained and should take those our training and do our job. If they had went to the scene and properly processed everything and looked at everything and alternatives and other possibilities, would we be in this boat now? I doubt it. But what were the conditions and why were they pushed and why did they take shortcuts? I have no idea. And unfortunately, it has put us in this position. And what would the outcome be? At least a hung jury.
From Michelle C. Did you have a chance to hear about the plow driver testimony?
I heard something about the plow driver testimony. I did. I can't recall exactly what it was, but yes. But I looked at that momentarily. I just didn't clip anything from his testimony.
And from Pitbull Mom, do you look into cases that are 40 plus years old?
I think the two oldest cases I'm looking at currently, one is 40 plus and one 30 plus.
Mm-hmm. If you have questions for Steve,
send me an email
at
steve@truecrimeweb.com.
Mm-hmm. And from Alan, how difficult would it be for law enforcement to cover up something of this size and magnitude? I mean, two people usually can't keep a secret.
Well, with modern technologies and processing of evidence, and yes, it's not so much as if the people can keep a secret, but can you commit a perfect crime and even a perfect cover-up? And that answer is no. I don't believe you can. The technologies are far more advanced. You have everything from your digital footprint, as we see that our text messages, even among the law enforcement officers, have come back to haunt some of these officers, rightly so. And what would be the final answer as we move forward on this? I think there's going to be a large finding of fact, and careers are going to be affected through this trial, no doubt about it.
And from Mountain Mama, what do you think of the judge?
I haven't looked at the judge at all, so I really don't have an opinion of that at this point, but I will take that into consideration.
And from Miss Brenda, $2 donation. There was pig DNA on J.O. on wound.
Yeah, and how can that occur? I know how it can occur. Yeah, but and pig DNA can be from you know several different sources. Can it be from that eating a pork sandwich to eating ribs to a dog chewing on a pork bone?
Yep.
I mean, there's so many variables and there's so many different ways that we can have cross contamination, and I don't know which is which. But and we have to look at that. We had a recent case where we went to Texas and recovered a rib bone from under a house that had no business being buried under a house, and it turned out to be a pig bone. So things like that occur.
All right.
All right, guys. I appreciate y'all being here. And like I said, I'm very intrigued by this, and I'm trying to figure out some of the testing that we can do on this case and try to get some clarification on it. I appreciate everyone being here. And if y'all have any questions or suggestions, send them either through comments or through my email, steve@truecrimeweb.com, and I will look at them. But y'all stay safe out there. We appreciate all the support, the donations. Check out our truecrimeweb.com. That's our website, and there's a link to our foundation, which does a lot of work for these families. And we've got a lot of stuff coming up in the new year for our second half of the year for budgeting, and we'll be getting into that as we move forward. But we want to thank all of y'all out there for everything that y'all done to this channel. Give it a thumbs up, share it, like it, and y'all stay safe out there, guys.
Love y'all.